Now let's look at the extent at which the private sector can get involved in the provision of electricity. The Department of Electricity and Energy is currently drafting regulations for private sector investment in transmission lines and establishment of an independent transmission system operator. Well, for more on this conversation, I'm joined by Ruse Moleshe, who is an energy expert. Appreciate your time. Always good to speak to you, Ruse. Now, how do you foresee the establishment of the NTCSAs and impact they will have on efficiency and transparency of electricity transmission in the private sector in South Africa?
Good afternoon to you, Hugo, as well as the listeners. The National Transmission Company of South Africa, which was launched recently, the purpose of that is to really introduce or deregulate or unbundle, rather, the transmission division from the generation and the distribution divisions at Eskom. So this entity will be independent and separate, though still owned by Eskom. And its purpose is to facilitate competition amongst the role players. Eskom, as a generator of electricity, used to buy power from independent power producers. And now that put the Eskom in a position where it became the referee and the player at the same time. So separating the transmission division means that the IPPs now can apply through the NTCSA for connecting to the national grid in order for their projects to transmit electricity.
Well, it almost seems like it's the same thing, Ruse. If you take the fact that both entities are still owned by Eskom, but I suppose you would argue that you are convinced that they will be able to draw the lines and there will be integrity in the various processes.
Yes, both the entity is still owned by Eskom Holdings. However, there's a level of independence in the sense that it has its own board, and the employees have been ring-fenced out of the Eskom to have a total entity that separates. So from that perspective, you have a board that takes decisions as independent from Eskom.
Well, there are various, and I suppose some elaborate models on procurement that are being considered for private sector involvement. What are the pros and cons of these?
So the procurement, they're trying to involve the private sector, and I think we heard them yesterday saying they are still going to pilot that to see what impact it will have on the National Transmission Company. So the National Transmission Company itself has got a budget, and they are going to continue to roll out infrastructure in the meantime. But the purpose of that is to try to leverage the private sector in terms of capacity and expertise and finance from their own resources to be able to develop more infrastructure. So if that pilot helps and it makes sense in the South African context, as it does in Brazil and countries like that, then they will go ahead with it.
Now, given the ambitious goals outlined in the transmission development plan, right? Do you anticipate, what timelines do you anticipate for the completion of the proposed transmission lines and infrastructure? Because it is a big project.
It is a big project, and very often these projects take time in terms of getting servitudes, getting approved, getting environmental impact assessments and all those kind of things, which Eskom Transmission Company South Africa has already people that understand those issues. But I think we are really driving a very ambitious project like no other that we've done in the past. We may face issues like supply chain constraints and all other issues. So there's no guarantee that those constraints will all be overcome at the same time. Other countries as well have faced similar problems. The demand for transmission that relates to trying to get the renewable energy projects online has been a challenge even outside of South Africa.
National Transmission Company of South Africa finally established. A big thank you to Ruse Moleshe, energy expert, walking us through how that is going to take place.